called bhajans in Sanskrit. And also we will have a class on Vedic knowledge from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And of course, you have this wonderful vision of the deities. Shri Radha Nilamadeva in the center. And to their right is Jagannath Subhadra Baladev. And to their left is Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman. So we're going to chant this first holy chant called Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, which means, the translation in English, out of compassion for the fallen souls, Shri Krishna Chaitanya came to this world with his personal associates and divine abode to teach Saranagati, surrender to the Almighty Godhead, and to freely distribute ecstatic love of God, which is ordinarily very difficult to obtain. This Saranagati is the very life of the true devotee. So, who is this Sri Krishna Chaitanya? It's actually an incarnation of Krishna, but in the most merciful form. Lord Chaitanya came 500 years ago. Krishna came 5,000 years ago. And in that interim period between the end of Krishna's appearance to about 500 years ago, the whole principles of Sanatana Dharma, or the eternal occupational duty for living entities, deteriorated. So Krishna appeared again in this special form in Bengal called Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in order to reinvigorate the spiritual practices that had deteriorated over time. And everything deteriorates over time. So therefore, God is in charge of maintaining the principles of religion to help the living entities achieve the goal of life, which is to become liberated from the cycle of birth and death and go back to the spiritual world where they came from. So Lord Chaitanya, when he came, he did not do anything violent. When Krishna came, he, in his original form, he killed a lot of demoniac persons and delivered his devotees from their oppression and reestablished the principles of religion. But when Lord Chaitanya came, he did not kill anybody. What he killed was people's desire for sinful activity. So he was a killer also, but he did not kill bodies. He killed the illusions and ignorance that cause people to engage in sinful activity, and reinvigorated the practice of Krishna consciousness. So this temple is in that tradition of Lord Chaitanya. We don't advocate killing anybody, but we do advocate helping people become free of ignorance by which they remain in the cycle of birth and death. So the real purpose of human life is to be liberated from birth, death, old age, and disease, and to be reinstated in our original position in the spiritual world. We all have an eternal soul, but at this present moment, our soul is covered by a material body that's always changing. And if we identify with that body that we have, then we unnecessarily suffer. If we identify with the eternal soul, which is the source of energy for this body, and with the Lord or Krishna, who's present in our heart also as the Paramatma or Super Soul, he's the closest person to us. And if we acknowledge that and listen to Krishna's advice which he gives in the book called the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is a quintessential book of Vedic knowledge. And we have, as you see, we have many Bhagavad Gitas here. And this is God speaking about himself. It's not a mundane book. This one book has enough knowledge and enough guidance to liberate any one of us from the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. So we'll get into this a little more in detail in a few minutes. And so this says, out of compassion for the fallen souls, Sri Krishna Chaitanya came to this world with his personal associates and divine abode to teach Saranagati. And that's a Sanskrit word which means surrender to the supreme, absolute truth, personality of Godhead, and to freely distribute ecstatic love of God, which is ordinarily very difficult to obtain. This Saranagati, or surrender to the Lord, is the very life of the true devotee. The ways of Saranagati are humility, dedication of the self, acceptance of the Lord as one's only maintainer, faith with Krishna, faith that Krishna will surely protect one, execution of only those acts favorable to pure devotion, and renunciation of conduct adverse to pure devotion. The youthful son of Nanda Maharaj, Sri Krishna, hears the prayers of anyone who takes refuge in him by this sixfold practice. Bhaktivinoda places a straw between his teeth, prostrates himself before the two Goswamis, Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatana, and clasps their lotus feet with his hands, saying, I am certainly the lowest of men. He tells them, weeping, but please make me the best of men by teaching me the ways of Saranagati, surrender to the Lord. So usually when we hear about surrendering ourselves, that sounds something bad. But if we surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that's the greatest and most wonderful decision we can ever make. Because by surrendering, and we're going to surrender anyway. Either we surrender to cancer or high blood pressure or diabetes, or we surrender to an enemy, or we surrender to a team member or a team leader, or we surrender to a CEO. We're always surrendered to someone. And if you don't have anyone to surrender to, you buy a dog and you surrender to the dog, you say. So we're going to surrender anyway, especially to the cycle of old age, disease, and death. But if we surrender to God, or to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, then we have a chance of liberating ourselves and finally getting out of this vicious cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. So we'll chant this and then we'll continue. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jivedoya Kori Swaprashada Swiyadama Sahava Avatari. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jivedoya Kori Swaprashada Swiyadama Saha Avatari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Adyanta Dulabha Prema Kori Varadana Shikaya Saranagati Bhaktira Prana. Adyanta Dulabha Prema Kori Varadana Shikaya Saranagati Bhaktira Prana. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Doya Kori Swaprasada Sriya Dhamma Saha Avatari.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Doya Kori Swaprasada Sriya Dhamma Saha Avatari.
Dainya Atmani Vedana Gopchite Varana Avayasya Sive Krishnas Vishwa Palana.
Dainya Atmani Vedana Goputritve Varana Avashya Rachive Krishna Vishwasha Palana.
Bhakti Dainya Atmani Vedana Gopchite Varana Avasya Rakshibe Krishna Vishwasa Palana.
Dainya Atmani Vedana Gopitre Varana Avashya Rakshibe Krishna Vishwasha Palana.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Doya Kori Swaprasada Sriya Dhamma Saha Avatari.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Doya Kori Swaprasada Sriya Dhamma Saha Avatari.
Bhakti Anukula Matra Karyera Svikara Bhakti Pratikula Bhava Varjanangikara.
Bhakti Anukula Matra Karyera Svikara Bhakti Pratikula Bhava Varjanangikara.
Bhakti Anukula Matra Karyera Svikara Bhakti Pratikula Bhava Varjanangikara.
Bhakti Anukula Matra Kareya Svikara Bhakti Pratikula Bhava Vrajanangikara.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Doya Kori Swaprasada Sriya Dhamma Saha Avatari.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Doya Kori Swaprasada Sriya Dhamma Saha Avatari.
Sadanga Saranagati Hoy Bejahara Tahara Patana Suneshi Nanda Kumara.
Sadanga Saranagati Hoibe Jahara Tahara Prarthana Sune Shri Nanda Kumara.
Sadanga Saranagati Hoy Bejahara Tahara Patana Suneshi Nanda Kumara.
Sadanga Saranagati Hoibe Jahara Tahara Prarthana Sune Shri Nanda Kumara.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Doya Kori Swaprasada Sriya Dhamma Saha Avatari.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Doya Kori Swaprasada Sriya Dhamma Saha Avatari.
Rupa Sanatana Pade Dante China Kori Bhakti Vinoda Pode Duhun Apadadori.
Rupa Sanatana Pade Dante Trina Kori Bhakti Vinoda Pode Duhun Padadhori.
Rupa Sanatana Pade Dante China Kori Bhakti Vinoda Pode Dun Padadori.
Rupa Sanatana Pade Dante Trina Kori Bhakti Vinoda Pode Duhun Padakari.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Doya Kori Swaprasada Sriya Dhamma Saha Avatari.
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Doya Kori प्रसाद सिया धाम सह अवतारी
Kandiya kandiya bole amito adama shikaye saranagati koro e utama
कांदिया कांदिया बोले आमितो अधाम सिखाए शरण गोति को रहे उत्तम
Kandiya kandiya bole amito todama shikaye saranagati koro e utama
कांदिया कांदिया बोले आमितो अधाम सिखाए शरण गति को रत उत्तम
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Rama Hare Hare
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Rama Hare Hare
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Hare Hare
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Hare Hare
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Gaur Premanandi Haribo Haribo. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Don't go away. Give me this. Thank you. You gonna play the cartels?
It's okay. Yeah, a little
It's all right. You're very big. Hare Krishna. This next bhajan or sacred chant is all about Krishna. That's our favorite subject here. Who is Krishna? If you learn who Krishna is, not only you learn who you are, but you also learn what the real goal of life is. We're not meant to be subject to birth, old age, disease, and death. Those are all artificial impositions on us. And how do we know that? We know that because we have a yearning to be immortal. Not if we feel as if immortality means I'll have an old body that's always sick and suffering. The body is meant for suffering, but the soul is not subject to suffering. The soul has eternality and knowledge and bliss. So right now it's covered by this body. So therefore, we don't realize what our real potential is in life. However, our yearning is that potential. We yearn to be eternally young, happy, full of love and affection for others, and to do good things. So people yearn that. Only those people who are very frustrated, they develop dark desires and feelings. But if you really ask yourself, what do I really want in life? Well, you will usually end up with, I want peace, I want happiness, and I want love. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor if you have those three things. So now, when we come in contact with genuine spiritual, let's say, mentors, not tormentors, but mentors, then we become enlightened to know what our real potential is in life. And due to modern education, due to overemphasis of materialism in life, we get sidetracked from what is the real goal of life. So the material world is a place of suffering. There's no doubt about it. Now, why is that? Because God instructs us in two ways. The first and foremost way is by speaking the Bhagavad Gita 5,000 years ago. And that gives us all knowledge necessary to easily liberate ourselves from the cycle of birth and death. And the second way that God instructs us is by the laws of karma. Karma means reactions to activities we have and desires that we have. So if we desire bad things, we get bad reactions. If we desire good things, we get good reactions, but even those good things based on selfish desires keeps us in the material world. So we stay in the material world by bad desires, and we remain in the material world in the cycle of birth and death by selfish desires for self-indulgence. So therefore, understanding what it means to have pure desires is education. You can never stop desiring. When you stop desiring, you stop existing. But if you desire the proper things, then you attain liberation from the cycle of birth and death. So the number one desire is should be to have a real relationship with God. And in order to do that, you have to have some knowledge of who God is and how you can relate to God, how you can be engaged in the service to God, and how you can please God. So that is what we teach here. We don't teach how you can make more money, or how you can dominate other people, or how you can browbeat people, or things like that. We teach these who is God and how to love God. And if you learn that, you will not only be happy and peaceful, but you'll be full of transcendental knowledge by which you can remember God even at the moment of death and be liberated from the cycle of birth and death. So most people say, look, sounds like a fairy tale. I don't believe it. That's okay. You can say that. But traditionally, especially in India, people believe this. And because of that, India was a very rich country and a happy country. And people lived in self-sufficient villages. They didn't have to import anything. And they all cooperated with each other. They had what's called concentric circles of interest. When you have concentric circles all around the same focal point, you don't have any intersections of those circles. And therefore, everyone acts in harmony because they all have the same goal. That goal was, in traditional Bharat or India, to please God. So if you please God, I'm happy because my goal is also to please God. Or if I please God, you're happy because your goal is also to please God. So that's what it means of having circles around the same focal point. But if you have a different desire and I have a different desire, then our circle of interests are going to intersect each other and there's going to be strife. Just like you see Israel and so-called the Palestinians, they're always fighting because they both want the same thing, a piece of land where they can practice their way of living. But they want the same piece of land. So you see, rather than having the same interest, that is to please God, they have one group has an interest to serve their ethnicity or their nationality, and the other group has a different interest to serve their nationality or their ethnicity, and they're fighting over the same land and they're killing each other. So to learn to have concentric or the same focus point in life, just like a husband and wife, if you both have the same goal in life, then you'll be harmonious, you'll live harmoniously together. If you have different goals in life, eventually there's going to be difficulties in the marriage. So learning about our relationship with Krishna and learning how to relate to God in a way that is loving and without selfishness. Like, for example, if we're always asking God for something, that's not actually love. That is some kind of dependence, of course. It's better than nothing, but it's not actually love. But wanting to give to God always, that's the beginning of love. So this was the culture of India for hundreds and thousands of years. Why do you think there's over 1 billion people that live in India? Because they survived all those years and they thrived. Why do you think so many people wanted to invade India? Because India was a very rich country. And it wasn't India, it was called Bharat. It was a very, very wealthy country. And therefore it was invaded by so many different groups, finally by the British. And they basically plundered the country as much as they could. So how did it become such a rich country in ancient times and a happy country? The invasion started in modern history by Alexander the Great, but he was defeated before he was able to conquer India. And then it continued later on by the Muhammad Ghazni, and there were Arabs, and then there was Persians, and there were Mongols, and so many different people, and eventually there was the British. They came to plunder the riches of this country. In fact, in 1825, Lord Macaulay, who was a British, manager in India, he asked this one South Indian Brahmana, he said, "Look, sir, your people are good. Our people in England, they're not as good as your people. A woman can walk around in her village at night and nothing will happen to her. She'll be protected. But if some woman walks around in London at night, oftentimes they're attacked. So your people are good. What's your secret? And they're happy. And you're prosperous. What's your secret?" So the South Indian Brahmana said, "Well, we respect elders. We respect women. We respect children and protect them. We respect spiritual mentors. And we respect Mother Earth. And especially the representative of Mother Earth." Wow. So when he heard that, right away he opened the first slaughterhouse in Mumbai, or Bombay in 1825. Before there were no slaughterhouses, people were vegetarian. Really low-class people would eat meat. So and now today, fast forward till today, there are over 30,000 slaughterhouses in India, and India has become one of the major exporters of meat. Where to become a Hindu, you can't eat meat. It's forbidden. But yet, many Hindus eat meat today. How did that happen? Well, it's due to modern education. We'll get to that in a minute. So we see that there has been a concerted effort to destroy the original culture, or Vedic culture, of Bharat, or India, and it has been rather successful. The Muslims wanted to do it in a cruel way, and the British did it in a much more subtle way, which is more effective for destroying culture. So, to get back to the real point is, what is the purpose of human life? We should ask ourselves that question. And what is our actual yearning? Nobody wants to, for example, nobody here, I think, chose to be born. Is there anyone here that remembers choosing to be born? Anybody? Is there anyone here who's choosing to get sick? Is there anyone here who's choosing to get old? Is there anyone here who's choosing to die? Okay, so what does that mean exactly? That means that these four things are forced on us. Now, a person who has intelligence, they'll say, well, wait a minute. How come I'm forced to do these four things? Why is this? Well, it's a very simple answer. Let's say you have a child, and you catch your child playing with matches and trying to set the house on fire. What would you do? What would you do, man? Huh? Nothing? Huh? You're not sure? I mean, you wouldn't take the matches away from the child? Or? Right, you have to stop. Okay, and you did stop him. Now, what would you do the second time you caught the child doing the same thing? Shout. Okay, that's good. What would you do the third time that you caught the child doing the same thing? What would your husband do?
Try to teach them.
Huh?
Try to teach them, remove all the matches from the house.
That's all? Nothing else? Wait a minute. Nothing else. All right, what would you do the fourth time you caught the child doing the same thing? Put your hand down.
There will be no matches in the house.
Look, it's not difficult to get matches. And obviously a child has some intelligence. So during the fourth time, what would you do?
I'm clueless, sir.
You're clueless. No, I know what you would do. You would punish the child in some way. Not to hurt the child, but to teach the child not to do that. So usually, I mean, the worst thing you can do today is to take the cell phone away from the child. That is like worse than death for kids nowadays, right? So you would do something to limit their freedom, right? So now we can understand why we are suffering. Because we have made mistakes in the past, not only in this life, in previous lives. And we're getting the reactions now. Now, we don't know what reactions we're going to get because we don't remember our previous life. And that is good and bad. It's good in this sense. If you remembered all the mistakes you made in your previous life and all the suffering you had, you would be forced to surrender to God in this life. And so that's to give you to keep your limited free will. You have to forget those things. But secondly, if you forget those things, now you can make a clear choice whether you want to stop the cycle of suffering by getting genuine spiritual knowledge, or whether you want to continue it out of ignorance. So here's a chance to understand how to get out of this whole unnecessary cycle of suffering and stop making the same mistakes that we made in previous times for which we're suffering today. So the whole reason we have a human body, because it's the only body in which we can actually understand our relationship with God. If you have a dog body or a cat body, you cannot understand your relationship with God. Or if you have the body of a snake or a bird or an aquatic, you will not be able to understand your relationship with God. It's only in the human body that we can understand. And we have the instruments to understand. We have eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, 5 highly evolved senses. Then we have the mind and intelligence, even more highly evolved senses. And these things put together, they're called knowledge acquiring senses. So that's the real purpose of our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, and mind. It's to acquire knowledge of how we become liberated from this material body and go back to the spiritual world in our original spiritual body. If we just waste our time using our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, and mind just to make money and to engage in sense gratification, we waste the purpose of human life, and we stay entrenched in the cycle of birth and death. That is the simple truth of human existence in this world. Now, you can accept it or reject it, that's up to you. But this was the original culture of India. Even simple people, farmers and things, they understood this. And therefore, they followed the rules and regulations of spiritual life, which are given in the Bhagavad Gita. What are those rules and regulations? There's basically 2 times 4. 4 things you should never do, and 4 things you should always do. What are the 4 things you should never do? Meat eating, gambling, illicit sex, and intoxication. What are the 4 things that you should always do? Always chant the holy names of the Lord. Even in the Bible, in the Psalms of David, they glorify the name of God. So it's there in the Bible, it's there in the Vedic tradition, it's there almost in every religion. Islam also. I remember once when I visited Morocco, in a small town called Marrakesh, I saw people just sitting on city streets and just chanting the name of Allah all day long. Even 12 o'clock at night, the man was chanting Allah, 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 Allah. So you see, this chanting of the name of God is not something that's unique to Hinduism or to Vedic tradition. Any bona fide religion will recommend glorifying the name of God. And we see it in the Bible, in the Old Testament, and we see it in the Quran, and we see it in Judaism also. And even the Buddhists, they have their mantras and so forth. Okay, so number 1 is glorifying the name of God. Number 2 is regularly hearing Vedic scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam to learn the science of God. And number 3 is always offering your food before you eat to God, and only vegetarian food, and no onion and garlic. And number 4 is coming to the temple regularly and engaging in seva. Seva means offering services, such as we have so many ways of serving in this temple. We have our free food trucks that go out. You can volunteer for that. We have our farm in Redmond where you can go and feed the cows and hug the cows. And these are cows that are always protected. We never kill them. And we love them like our own family members. And we also grow organic vegetables. And you can do so many services in the temple here. So service and focusing our attention on learning more and more about God, and offering our food before we eat, and also chanting the holy names of the Lord. So 4 things you should never do, 4 things you should always do. That's all you have to do to liberate yourself from the cycle of birth and death. It's not complicated. Anybody can do it. You don't need to be a rocket engineer. Okay, so now this next bhajan is called 8 Prayers Glorifying Lord Krishna. Okay. Navaniradhanindita kandidaram rasaksagara nagara bhupavaram
Bhupavaram
Navaniradhanindita kandidaram rasasagara nagara bhupavaram
Navaniradhanindita kantidharam rasasagara nagara bhupavaram
Sabhavankimacharusikandasikam Vaja Krishna Nidim Raja Rajasutam
Shubhavankimacharusikandasikam Vaja Krishna Nidhim Vraja Rajasutam
Bhuvi Sankitavankimasakrudanam Mukachandra Vinindita Koti Vidam
Bhugavinkitavankimasakradhanum Mukhachandra Vinindita Koti Vidhum
Miduvanda Suhasya Subhasya Jutam Vaja Krishna Nidim Raja Raja Sutam
Mridu Manda Suhasya Subhasya Hutam Bhaja Krishna Nidhim Vraja Raja Sutam
Suvikam Padananga Sadangadaram Rajavasi Manohara Vesakaram
Suvikam Pada Anga Sadangadharam Vrajavasi Manohara Veshakaram
Vrisha Lanchita Nila Saroja Drisam Vaja Krishna Nidim Vaja Raja Sutam
Vrashalanchita Nila Saroja Drisham Bhaja Krishna Nidhim Vraja Raja Sutam
Alakavali Mandita Balatatam Shrutadolita Makaras Kundalakam
Alakavali Mandita Bhalatatam Shruti Dolita Makara Kundalakam
Kativesita Pita Pahatam Sudatam Vaja Krishna Nidim Raja Raja Sutam
Kativestita Pita Patam Sudhatam Bhaja Krishna Nidhim Vraja Raja Sutam
Alakavali Mandita Balatatam Shutadolita Makara Kundalakam
Kalanupura Rajita Charupadam Maniranjita Ganjita Bringamadam
Kativesita Pita Patam Sudatam Bhaja Krishna Nidim Raja Raja Sutam
Bhaja Vajraja Sankita Padayugam Bhaja Krishna Nidhim Vraja Raja Sutam
Kalanupura Ranjita Charupadam Maniranjita Ganjita Bringamadam Raja Raja Sankita Pada Yugam Raja Krishna Didim Raja Raja Sutam
Bhaja Vajraja Sankita Pada Yugam Bhaja Krishna Nidhim Vraja Raja Sutam
Vrusha Chandana Charchita Charutanam Manikostu Bhagarhita Bhanutanam
Vrasha Chandana Charchita Charutanam Manikostu Bhagarhita Bhanutanam
Rajabala Siromani Rupadritam Raja Krishna Nidim Raja Raja Sutam
Vrajabala Siromani Rupadritam Bhaja Krishna Ridim Vraja Raja Sutam
Suravinda Suvanya Mukunda Harim Suranatha Siromani Sarva Gurum
Suravinda Suvandya Mukunda Harim Suranatha Shiromani Sarva Gurum
Giridhari Murari Purari Param Raja Krishna Nidim Raja Raja Sutam
Giridhari Murari Purari Param Bhaja Krishna Nidhim Vraja Raja Sutam
Vishabhanu Sutta Varakeli Param Rasaraja Siromani Vesadaram
Vishavanu Sutta Varakeli Param Rasraj Shiromani Veshadharam
Jagadishwaram Ishwaram Idyavaram Raja Krishna Nidim Raja Raja Sudam
Jagadishwaram Ishwaram Idyavaram Bhaja Krishna Nidhim Vraja Raja Sutam
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Rama Hare
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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Rama Hare Hare
Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Bol Hari Bol So Krishna, whose complexion conquers that of a fresh new rain cloud, who is the best king of paramours, the ocean of ecstatic mellows, whose crown is adorned with a lovely peacock feather and is auspiciously tilted to one side, just worship Krishna, the dark jewel, the son of the king of Vraja. So there is Krishna right now. Let's see if that description is true to what it says. So we see Krishna. He has his complexion conquers that of a fresh new rain cloud. Well, the rain clouds are usually somewhat dark, and it's described that Krishna's darkness is not a pale darkness, but it's like a rain cloud that's struck by lightning. So it's a dark rain cloud that's struck by lightning. And then who's the best king of paramours, the ocean of ecstatic mellows. Well, you see these ecstatic mellows there. He's standing next to Radharani, and she is very beautiful, and he is also very, very handsome, and they are decorated in such beautiful ways with very harmonious colors and smiling and basically dancing, and whose crown is adorned with a lovely peacock feather. Does he have the peacock feather? Yes, he's got a peacock feather. And is auspiciously tilted to one side. Well, slightly tilted to one side. Just worship Krishna, the dark jewel, the son of the king of Vraja. Krishna, whose broadly bending eyebrows appear like arched rainbows, whose pure moon-like face belittles millions of ordinary moons, who is endowed with sweet, gentle smiles and pleasant speech. Just worship Krishna, the dark jewel, the son of the king of Vraja. Krishna, whose divine bodily limbs tremble profusely with Cupid's agitations, who dresses enchantingly just to fascinate the Vrajavasis. Those are the residents of Goloka Vrindavan, who is decorated with extraordinary eyes like blue lotus blossoms. Just worship Krishna, the dark jewel, the son of the king of Vraja. Krishna, whose forehead is surrounded by a fringe of wavy locks, whose earlobes are embellished with swaying shark-shaped earrings. Does he have the sharp-shaped earrings on? Who is adorned with yellow silk embracing his charming hips. Just worship Krishna, the dark jewel, the son of the king of Vraja. Krishna, whose beautiful feet resound with softly tingling ankle bells that madden all the bees with their vibration of swinging gemstones, whose soles are marked with the flag, thunderbolt, fish, and more signs. Just worship Krishna. And Krishna, whose graceful form is smeared with profuse sandalwood paste, whose body glows with the Kostoba jewel, eclipsing the sun, whose personal beauty represents the topmost zenith of the youths of Vrindavan. Just worship Krishna. Krishna, who is Mukunda, the giver of liberation, and Hari, one who takes away all suffering of life, worshipable for all the demigods and sages, who is the guru of the all-created beings, the crest jewel of all lords, who is known as Giridhari. He held up the mountain of Govardhan. And Murari, he plays the flute in an enchanting way, is more exalted even than Lord Shiva. Just worship Krishna. And Krishna, who is most fond of sporting with the daughter of Rishabhanu, Srimati Radharani, who dresses impeccably as the crown prince of mellow relishers, who is the most praiseworthy Lord of Lords in the entire universe. Just worship Krishna. Hari Bol. So we have a lot of reasons why we should worship Krishna. Okay, so now we're going to have our discussion tonight. He has to put it up. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 26th chapter, 32nd verse, which says, when egoism in ignorance is agitated by the sex energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the subtle element sound is manifested, and from sound comes the ethereal sky and the sense of hearing. So this is the beginning of an exhaustive explanation of how the material world is created. You will not find this information in any other book, whether it's in a spiritual category or a science category. The only place where you can understand and hear in a rational and systematic way how the material world is created, what is the purpose of the material world, and how it's being maintained, and how it will be eventually dissolved, it's in the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's no other book that has this information. And not only that, the Srimad Bhagavatam is the only book in the world that has exhaustive information of what is the spiritual sky, what's going on there, who are the personalities there, and how you can also enter into that eternal life. So nowhere else is there any information like this. You can go into Wikipedia, you can go to the Universal Britannica, you can go anywhere, you can go to any university, you will not find this information. And even in the Bible, even in the Quran, even in the Torah, you will not find this information, and either in the Buddhist writings. It's only in this ancient, most ancient Vedic tradition where this knowledge is preserved up until today. And if you're interested in it, you can get the set of the Srimad Bhagavatams in 18 volumes where all these things are explained. But anyway, we're going to now discuss how the beginning of the material creation happens. So it says, and the Sanskrit is tamasat cha vikurvanad bhagavad viryachodita sabdamatram abhuttasmin nabashrotram tu sabdagam. So, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, my guru, founder of the Hare Krishna movement, he writes in the purport, the beginning of the creation is this. In the beginning of the creation, there is sound. The modern physicists, they also agree. Sound and light, even according to their theory of life, is the beginning of material creation. But the sound is the origin of creation mixed with these modes of ignorance. Everything here in the material world is spiritual reflection covered by material elements. So when this sound is purified, or you catch up the spiritual sound, then your spiritual life begins. Okay, so I'll stop right there. This is very profound statements. What is he saying here? He's saying that the creation begins with sound. When there is sound, space is created. And so the sound is the origin of creation mixed with these modes of ignorance. So everything here in the material world is spiritual reflection covered by the material elements. So what does that mean, spiritual reflection covered by material elements? What we're perceiving in this world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. And it's a perverted reflection in darkness. Now, what does that mean exactly? That means that, like for example, if you're driving your car at night and it's dark outside, and let's say there's a street lamp on your right-hand side, and if you look at the driver's side window on his left, or his or her left, you'll see a reflection of your face on the dark side of your window. Now, that is called a reflection in darkness. And when it's a dark night, when it's a darkness at night, and on one side there might be some light, that light projects your face into the window, and it looks like you're on the outside of the window looking in at yourself. Have you ever seen that? You have? Right. So you didn't know I was going to speak about this, right, sir? No. But you've actually seen that. That's called a reflection in darkness. Now, not only is that a reflection in darkness, but the material world is a perverted reflection in darkness. In other words, whatever is existing in the spiritual world, reflection in darkness in the material world. Therefore, it says that the sound is the origin of creation mixed with these modes of ignorance. What does that mean? Well, there are three supernatural forces that are controlling our activities. They are goodness, passion, and ignorance, or sattva, rajas, and tamas in Sanskrit. What does that mean? That means that all our activities in life, in this life, are being forced on us. Now, I'll give you examples. Every one of us is forced to eat. And every one of us, after we eat, we're forced to pee and to pass stool. Is that true or false? What do you think? Is that true or false? Are you forced to eat every day? Do you have to go to the bathroom after you eat? You see, you're not free to do that. You have to do that to stay alive, right? Now, are you forced to work also to maintain yourself? Are you forced to take rest also, to sleep? You see? You're also forced to blink your eyes. You can't stop blinking the eyes. You're forced to breathe, inhale and exhale. You're forced to do everything. Now, the only thing where you have some freedom, and we all have limited free will, you're forced to eat, but you're not forced to eat meat or forced to be a vegetarian. You can choose what you want to eat, but you can't stop eating. And you can choose how you're going to sleep, right? You sleep on the floor, you sleep on a bed, or you take a sleeping pill, or you smoke some marijuana and go to sleep, whatever, but you have to sleep, right? And then you have to wake up and you have to work. Now, even if you're a thief, that's the type of work, right? One time a person came to the temple and I asked him, I said, so what do you do for a living? He said, I'm a thief. So I was shocked when he said, I said, what's your specialty? He said, well, I started off with televisions and videos, and now I graduated to cell phones and computers. I said, really good. I said, how do you sell them? So I have people that buy them from me real cheap, and I have no problem selling them. So, I don't ask anybody anymore what they do, because I'm afraid to ask. Someone might say I'm a murderer, but at least the guy tells the truth, right? So we see that everybody, even a thief, has to work to make money, right? They have to find out a way to steal money or cheat people, or they become a stockbroker, or they open up a hedge fund, or whatever. They're all thieves. So, okay, so everything begins with sound. Now, but the sound in the material world is under the modes of nature. That means goodness, passion, and ignorance. That means that the sound in this world is, in the Sanskrit word for it is tamasi buddhi. Tamasi buddhi means intelligence and ignorance. Now, what is intelligence and ignorance? Well, they're false concepts, such as everything started with a big bang, and we all come from monkeys. Now, is there anyone in this room that believes that they have a monkey in their family? Raise your hand. Anybody? How about, you believe that you have a monkey? There's no monkey in my family, I know for sure. Right? Now, this is a crazy idea that we all come from monkeys. Have you ever seen a human being born from a monkey? You see, but they teach that to your kids. And then everything started by a big bang. If I make a big bang in the kitchen, your kitchen matter, would it create something or destroy something? What do you think? Of course. These are all crazy ideas, right? And then they have so many other crazy ideas that they teach as science, but there's no proof that any of these things are true. They talk about quarks and dark holes and things like that. Have you ever seen anything like that? Right? You just have to accept what they say, right? So who should you accept? What Krishna says or what these crazy scientists say? Right? So they say, well, wait a minute, we have created bridges and cars and washing machines and dryers and television and radio and rockets and so many things, So just trust us. We'll also make death optional by 2050. These are all crazy ideas. Now, did they make those rockets? Yes. In fact, after 300 years of scientific advancement, what have we achieved? Now let's look at that the fourth panel there. So go take the microphone and read off what's on the bottom there. This is what has been achieved by modern science. It's very interesting to read these 4 panels if you get a chance. But let's look at the fourth one. On the bottom, the fourth one.
This one? Okay.
Yeah.
So, beware of massive weapons of societal.
Now, wait a minute. Start from that red
This one?
text. No, the red text above it, right there.
Yeah, that's what I'm reading.
What does it say?
Beware of massive weapons of societal degradation.
Okay, beware of massive weapons of societal degradation. Okay? Now read, go ahead.
The following are a list of destructive achievements of the so-called enlightened persons. Scientists have created weapons of mass destruction.
Okay, we see that now in the war in Ukraine. The United States is sending massive numbers, $50 billion worth of bombs and guns and rockets and things like that. Okay, go ahead.
Such as atom bombs, missiles, military weapons. The next one is infotech people have created weapons of mass distraction.
Yeah, like for example, you go on the internet, you want to look up something on Wikipedia, but you end up spending like 3 hours on the internet going from one thing to another thing to another thing to another thing, right? Does that happen? Yeah. How about you, Madam? Okay. I'm glad you're sitting here. It's good. You're validating everything I say. So, that's what binary technology is all about. 1 0, 1 0, 1 0, 1 0, 1 0, 1 0, 1 0. So when you go on the internet, you go to see one thing, and then that takes you to another thing. It takes you another thing to another thing. You end up 3-4 hours on the internet. Or you go to TikTok, and you see one nonsense thing, then it takes you to a second nonsense thing, then a third nonsense. Is this right, Prabhu? Does that happen to you? You get TikToked? You see? So these are all weapons of mass distraction. So what was the second one? Who did that?
The infotech people.
Yeah, the tech people. All you guys. All you guys, this is what you're doing. You're creating, and this mass distraction on steroids is called metaverse. When the metaverse comes out and starts really, selling, you're going to have people walking around with this big thing on their head, and they create their own reality, right? Like, let's say someone who's 5 feet 1, he can become an NBA basketball player in the metaverse. 7 feet tall, he dunks the ball with his hand into the loop. Right? So, basically, it's becoming a little god where you create your own reality. See? So this is distraction on steroids, right? Okay, go ahead.
Maharaj, in fact, just quickly adding there is a term used for continuously scrolling. It's called as the doom scrolling. Doom scrolling, where you just keep on scrolling in TikTok, in Facebook, all these short videos and all.
Right, yeah.
The third one is politicians have created weapons of mass deception.
Yeah, they're lying.
With lies, broken promises, wars, artificially created crisis to keep people in anxiety. Next is Hollywood, Bollywood, and social media have created weapons of mass perversion.
Yeah, like Bollywood movies used to be really good. In fact, I went once to a small town in Morocco called Marrakesh. And I arrived there late at night on a 2-engine airplane and had to take a bus into the downtown area, like tourist town. And as soon as I stepped off the bus, I was dressed like this as a devotee. This Arab man said, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. I was like shocked. I mean, this is a small mountain village in Morocco, right? And I looked at him. I said, Shuf hada. I said, I speak a little Arabic. I said, how do you know this? He said, I saw the movie. You know which movie? Hari Ram, Hari Krishna, Damari Dam. Which means in English, I chant Hare Rama and I chant Hare Krishna and I smoke marijuana. It rhymes also, right? So this was a famous movie in India. Now see, at that time, Indian Bollywood movies were shown all over the world, especially in the Soviet Union and in Muslim countries. You know, and the guys told me, I saw the movie, right? That's how, and that's how the Hare Krishna mantra was spread all over the world through, even by some nonsense movie in India. But they were showing it everywhere because Indian themes in those days were very good. How much a son loves his mother, how much the mother and father sacrificed for the son. They had all these good themes, and people would watch them. Nowadays, there's no difference between Hollywood and Bollywood. In fact, Bollywood is worse than Hollywood now. So you see, there's a major shift of culture even in India. Okay? All right, go ahead.
The next one is false brahmanas or priests have created weapons of mass materialism.
Yes, so this puja for hire. One time I was speaking to this one pundit, and he told me, Prabhuji, I have a mantra for everything. I said, really? I said, what do you mean, a mantra for everything? I said, anything. Just say anything, I have a mantra for it. Your grandmother has a headache, I got a mantra for it. Your kid wants to pass the SAT, I got a mantra for it. And your business is not doing good, I have a mantra for it. This is called puja for hire. And what is it all about? It's all about material benefits, you see. So what does that say? Prabhu, read that again.
It says false brahmanas or priests have created weapons of mass materialism by pursuit of materialistic goals in the name of religion.
Those type of rituals have nothing to do with spiritual life. It's all about materialism and material benefit. Go ahead, next.
Next one is industrialists have created weapons of mass pollution.
Yeah, I mean, you have people now saying, like Elon Musk and others, oh, we can't live on the earth anymore. The environment is destroyed. I'm going to make a rocket and send you to Mars. Okay, Elon, you go first and tell us if there's any Starbucks on Mars. Yeah, look, these people are crazy, right? They're going to go to Mars? You know, he publicized asking for volunteers to take the first one-way trip to Mars. You know how many people signed up? Probably you know. Huh? Anybody know how many people signed up? Wrote in and said, I volunteer? 160,000 idiots. And he said it's a one-way trip. In other words, they're never coming back. In other words, they're all going to die. This is how stupid people are today, right? You're going to go a one-way trip to Mars? You think you'll ever come back? You think you'll survive? You think there's anywhere you could live in Mars? Right? Okay, so this is all crazy stuff, but people are accepting it. Right? Go ahead, next.
And the final one says, feminists and male social engineers have created weapons of mass disruption.
No, disruption of marriage.
Yeah, of harmonious married life and encouraging divorces or
read
open
it
marriages.
Read it again.
Feminists and male social engineers have created weapons of mass disruption. Disruption. Of harmonious married life and encouraging divorces or open marriages.
Yeah, would you accept that? What you just said? Does that make sense? I mean, I can show you. You know, there's what you call women's magazines. In women's magazines, you have these PhD women that write articles like, "It's not bad to cheat on your husband. Actually, it makes your marriage stronger." What? Are you crazy? You know, how is it going to make your marriage stronger? You know, if you're cheating on your husband or your husband is cheating on you. They write articles, PhDs write articles like this. Have you ever, I mean, you probably don't buy those magazines. But, you know, where do you see those magazines? You see them when you go to the checkout counter of Safeway or QFC or Walmart. See, they have all these crazy magazines there, right? Now, when people buy, and obviously people are buying them because they've been there for the last 10, 20 years, right? That means they were selling. But I was standing behind one woman, you know, and she was looking at a magazine, and she grabbed the magazine and did like this right away, so no one would see the cover of the magazine. In other words, she didn't want anyone to know that she was buying that magazine, right? Because you got to be an idiot to buy those magazines, you see. But people buy them, and they're reading all this salacious nonsense in the magazine. So you see, the modern so-called male social engineers and female feminists, they're trying to destroy the sanctity of marriage. Whereas the whole peace and the whole continuity of society is based on the marriage vow that you make. And what is the vow? It can be in Christianity, it can be in Judaism, it can be in Hinduism. It's there will never be any separation till death do us part. This was a pledge that people make when they get married, right? So let's see. You were married, right? Did you make that pledge? Yep. Yeah, right. You see, and now these people are trying to destroy it by say, well, it's okay to cheat on your husband. It makes your marriage stronger. What? How can that make your marriage stronger? You see, this is all crazy stuff that's going on. There's a switch. There's a change of culture now in the United States, and it's very serious. And the worst thing is that the modern education that your kids are getting is completely different than what you believe in. And believe me, it's a fact. Every value that you have is being destroyed in your kids by putting them into those schools. Okay, what's next? That was the last one. That's enough. It's all bad news. Okay, so everything begins by sound. The material creation begins by sound. So, therefore, it says, everything here in the material world is a perverted spiritual reflection covered by the material elements of what's in the spiritual world. And when this sound is purified, or you catch up the spiritual sound, then your spiritual life begins. So how come you took off the text, Prabhu? Why'd you take the text off? Put it back on. Okay, so now, I think you've heard of, I call it rat music, but they say rap music, but I call it rat music. If you want to be a rat, you listen to that music. So everything begins from sound. What does that mean? That means when you see someone walking down the street and they have their boom box or they have their what do you call those? Huh? Yeah, the headphones on, and they're walking down the street and they're going, and going like this and moving around like that. They're listening to music, or they're in a car, and the windows open and you hear boom, 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 boom. And you hear some rat music going on. These sounds are enough to destroy anything good that you have in your mind, and to restructure your mind to perversion, right? So if you listen to the lyrics of rat music, they're horrible. They're talking about killing and all kinds of political messages and critical race theory, all these things that are anti-human life messages, right? Or they're talking about the gangster rap, etc. So if we listen to transcendental sound, and that's what the Hare Krishna mantra is, It's the names of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So what is the meaning of this mantra? Man means the mind, and tra means deliverance of the mind from ignorance. Mantra. So how does it deliver our mind from ignorance? Because we're repeating the names of God, and each of the names of God has deep spiritual meaning. When you put these words, these three words together, Hare Krishna and Rama, the meaning of the mantra is, my dear Lord Krishna, and Srimati Radharani, Krishna's eternal consort, and O Lord Rama, also an incarnation of Krishna, the most merciful incarnation, please protect me so I can always engage in your service. That's the meaning of the mantra. So if you chant this mantra, this vibration, to deliver your mind from ignorance. And what is ignorance? Ignorance is identifying with the temporary body. Now, if you say, I am this body, I'm sure of it, I can ask you a question. So which body are you talking about? The one you had when that little microscopic fish called sperm that came from your father to your mother? Would anyone here deny that they were that sperm? Sir, would you deny that you were a little sperm at one time? Huh? No. Yeah. Huh? Would you deny that you began like a little sperm? You would not deny it, right? No. You know how big the sperm is? It's microscopic. You need a microscope to see it. Every one of us started like that. Do you accept that? You're pretty big right now, probably, right? What, are you like 6 feet tall or something like that? You began like a microscopic sperm. And when that sperm connected with the ovum, then it began to grow, right? And where's all the intellectual property coming from? Because that little sperm, when it connects with the ovum, it develops a body. You know how complicated a human body is? You probably have children, right? Do you know how you made the child? Huh? Does any woman here know how they made the child in their womb? No, you don't know. You see, it's a miracle how it happened. Where did all that information come from? You know, I mean, just to build a Lego, you need to have intelligence, right? But we're not talking about a Lego. We're talking about a human being, a whole body with eyes and ears and nose and everything organized and everything working. That little body comes out, it's like this, and it has everything already. You see, these are miracles, and they're mysterious miracles. We don't understand them. The doctors don't understand them. The scientists don't understand them, you see. But we see it with our own eyes, right? So how are we going to deal with this? How long do we want to stay in ignorance? That's the question. Because ignorance is the cause of suffering, right? Just like someone, like a little kid in school, he gets a fentanyl tablet. I don't know if you know what fentanyl is. Anybody know what it is? Fentanyl is the most destructive drug in the world. You can take it and very easily you could die. And a lot of people are dying of it in the United States right now. It's a little pill like that, very small. It's very easy to smuggle it into the United States. It's not very expensive, and little kids get it nowadays. It's so easy to get. Even in elementary schools or middle schools or high schools, they are getting fentanyl. And all kinds of people are dying from it. So, you see, this is called ignorance. Especially young kids, they're very susceptible to this type of ignorance. They think, someone said, hey, look, it's really cool, you know. Last time I told you to smoke marijuana, it was really good, wasn't it? Yes. Well, now this thing is even better. It's fentanyl. You know, you'll get the best high, and it's right away. So, you know, kids don't know. They take it, and they die. Now, don't believe me. Look it up in a newspaper, fentanyl. You'll see many, many kids and people are dying right now in the United States from these little pills, right? They're very, very powerful drugs in a little pill. Okay, so what do we do with all this? Where there's a degradation of society now, and it's getting worse. And besides that, there's also strange weather patterns, and there's wars going on, and everybody's saying, oh, there's going to be a big recession in 2023, blah, blah, blah. How do we deal with all this? We must have a relationship with God. Otherwise, we're going to get desperate, we're going to get frustrated, and we're going to become negative. That's what this temple is here for a positive alternative to all this nonsense. Positive knowledge, factual knowledge. So I will stop right there. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask? We'll continue this next week. Any questions? Here's your chance to ask me a question that you've never gotten a satisfactory answer to. Yes, madam. Give her the microphone.
I would have a question for you, like how to let go. Because now...
Let go?
Yeah, let go of anything. It can be anything. It can be anger, it can be someone, it can be anything. Like how can you let go of?
That's a very good question. It's not difficult. If you have $10 and you lose $5, is that going to be a big loss for you? No? No, it's a big loss. You just lost half of what you have, right? But let's say you have $10 million and you lose $10. Is that a big loss? No. So if you have a substantial relationship with God, you will not be troubled by whatever happens in the material world. Because you'll be convinced that God exists. You'll be convinced that you also exist as an eternal soul, and that this body is just a temporary thing. And while it's a temporary thing, if you use it in the service of God, that's the best way of living in this body, and that'll reinforce your faith in God, and you'll go back to Godhead at the end of life. See? And you won't be disturbed by what's happening in the material world, because anything happening in the material world is temporary. It's not eternal. But your soul is eternal. Your son's soul is eternal. Your husband's soul is eternal. But if you only have body-to-body relationships, you'll always be disturbed. Okay, stop that. But if you have soul-to-soul relationships, you'll never be disturbed. So you have to learn to develop this soul-to-soul relationship. Body-to-body relationship, let's say I hope it never happens, but let's say your husband has a serious accident and he's paralyzed the rest of his life, and you have to take care of him. That would be a great tragedy in your life, right? Not only for your husband, but for you also. So these things can happen very easily. You know how dangerous it is to drive a car? You know, people are having accidents also. In fact, driving a car in India is much worse than driving a car here, right? There's so many accidents in India. People die, they get paralyzed and whatever. You know, because, you know, people smoke ganja and they drive their taxis and they're completely high. Or sometimes the bus driver jumps out of the bus crashes and people die. You know, it's crazy the things that happen there, right? But it's also crazy here. There's so many accidents. So we should not be, let's say, without relationship with God, because if we are, we get devastated by these things. We get paralyzed. We get negative. And that negativity makes us sick, mentally and physically. So we need to have a substantial relationship with God. Like, for example, your husband, how many years did you go to school to get the job that you have? 16 years, right? How many years do you think you should read Bhagavad Gita? It took you 16 years to get your job, right, of education. How many years do you think you should read Bhagavad Gita?
I don't know.
You don't know? At least 16 years, right? You,
Okay.
you learn nonsense things for 16 years. You should spend 16 years learning something real. You know, Did they ever teach you anything about your soul?
No.
But that's who you really are. You're not this body. I mean, which body are you? The one you had when you were a sperm, or an embryo, or a child, a young child, or when you're a teenager, or when you're adult, or when you're middle-aged, or when you get old? Which body are you? You can't say I'm this body. It's changing all the time, right? But you are the witness of all the changes. That's who you are, that consciousness. And consciousness is a symptom of the soul. It's not the symptom of the body. Body is dead. As soon as your soul leaves the body is dead. It's only animated by the fact that your soul is present. So that's the most important education that you need and your kids need. The knowledge of the soul and its relationship to God. And then from that point on, you make soul-to-soul relationships, not body-to-body relationships. Body-body relationships, that's what's in those magazines, in the Safeway and the QFC. All nonsense, body-to-body relationships, right? They're meaningless, they're nonsense. But soul-to-soul relationships are real. That's what you learn when you come to this temple. Okay, so we'll stop right there. Thank you very much. We want to thank the sponsors of our feast tonight, Aparna Shekhar, Pransaki Devidasi, Selva Kani Devendran, Kiran Jasti, Amit Banerjee, and Achla Guha. So Aparna Shekhar, on the occasion of Avya Shekhar's birthday. So happy birthday, Avya. I hope there's a birthday cake for you now. And Pransaki, in memory of her mother who passed away, Sunita Mittal, and Selva Kani Devendran, and Kiran Jasti on the occasion of Vaikunta Ekadasi, which was the 2nd of January here. We had about 1,500 people came to that. Amit Banerjee and Achla Guha on the occasion of Vaikunta Ekadasi. Thank you very much. We have our upcoming events. Go Puja at our farm on January 17th from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Redmond Goloka farm. We have over 20 Desi cows, Gujarati Gir cows. You're invited to come to the Go Puja, or worship of the cow. Some people say, why do you worship a cow? Because cow is our mother. There are 7 mothers according to the Vedic scriptures. One of them is the cow, because we all grew up drinking cow's milk. So she's like our mother. And we protect our cows. We never kill them, the cows and the bulls. And you can come and hug them and feed them and brush them. They're very friendly, very, very cuddly. And then on Saturday, January 17th, is the Goda Kalyanam. Saturday the 17th at the temple here. It says 17th right here. Why don't you take a look at that? What number is that? Is that 14? It's 17, right? Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for correcting it. It's January 14th, Saturday, Goda Kal. So Goda is one of the Alvars. She's the only female saint, Alvar, in South India. And we're going to have her Kalyanam, the marriage ceremony of her with in Sri Rangam with Ranganath. So it's a wonderful story, and we'll tell that story also. From 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And from 5 in the afternoon to 8 p.m. So you're all welcome to come on January 14th. And then the combined Vyasa Puja for our congregation members on January 18th at 10 a.m. in the morning. So these are, and if you want to know about all the different activities we have, you can just put your what do you call that? Not your phone number, your email on our webpage. You don't have to put any other information. We don't need your social security number. We don't need your bank number. We only need your email, and you will get all our invitations. Hare Krishna. So now we'll have our ceremony, our arti ceremony. Okay. Jayo Jaya Gora Chande Arati Ke Soba Jana Vitata Vane Jagamana Loba Jayo Jaya Gora Chande Arati Ke Soba Jana Vitata Vane Jagamana Loba Gorangera Rotik Soba Jagajana Mana Loba Gorangira Rotik Soba Jagajana Mana Loba Jagajana Mana Loba Bola Jagajana Mana Loba Kibadaki Nitaya Chan Banmengadat Para Nikake Advaita Shini Vasachatradara Gorangera Rotik Soba Jagajana Mana Loba Bolo Gorangera Rotik Soba Jagajana Mana Loba Kibaboshin Chipura Chan Ratna Singha Sane Boshina Chingora Chan Ratna Singha Sane Aruti Korena Brahma Adi Deva Gane Gorangera Rotik Soba Jagajana Mana Loba Bolo Gorange Rarotik Soba Jagajana Mana Loba Kibanara Adhikari Chamara Dulaya Sanjaya Mukunda Vasu Gosa Adigaya Gorangera Ruktik Soba Jagajana Manaloba Hey Bolo Gorangera Ruktik Soba Jagajana Manaloba Jagajana Manaloba Bolo Jagajana Manaloba Hiba Shankar Baje Ganta Baje Baje Karatala Madhura Midanga Baje Paramarasala Shanka Baje Ganta Baje Madhur 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 Baje Bolo Shanka Baje Ganta Baje Madhur 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 Baje Bolo Shanka Baje Ganta Baje Madhur 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 Baje Madhur 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 Baje Madhur 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 Baje Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Bola Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Bola Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Mola Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna. Bolo Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol.
Bahu Koti Chandra Jini Vadana Ujvala.
Jiba Bahu Koti Chandra Jini वदन उज्ज्वला
काला देशे वानमाला गोरे चाला माला
गाला देशे बाणमाला कोरे जलमाला
शिवा सुकनारादा प्रेमे गादा गादा
शिव शिवा शुकनारदा प्रेमे गदगाधा
आघाती विनोदा देखे मोराना संपादा
भक्ति विनोदा देखे गोरार संपादा
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Bolo Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Hare
Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hari Bol
Hari Bol
Hari Bol
Hari Bol
Hari Bol Nitya Gaura Hari Bol
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol,
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol,
Hari Bol,
Hari Bol,
Hari Bol,
Hari Bol, Hari Bol,
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakachara Astatara Satrishi Shishimad. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Shri Mayapura Dham ki jai, Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Ganga Maya ki jai, Jamuna Maya ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to Samudra, all glories to Samudra, all glories to Samudra, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavane ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitanamani Namaste Saraswati Devi. Gauravani Pracharani Nirvisesa Sunivali Paskati. Gaur Premanandi Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. Namaste.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladadaine. Yato
की जय। नमः ओम विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी निति नामने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी भास्कर्य रचितारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंदम हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण
हरे 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 राम 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 हरे
Lord Premanande.
हरि हरि बोल Sit. प्रभु जी you sing publish करो वो बढ़ेंगे गाने के लिए
You play.
Bigger kata. You don't have the bigger kata? Not the big one, but no, this also can. This is what we once heard here. It obstructs.
Vibhavari sesa aroka pravesa nidachari yuta jiva. Rajendrananda Shyama
Narsimhavamana Srimadhusudana Rajendranandana Shyama
Putana Gatana Puita Basatana Jayadasarati Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Yasoda Dulala Govinda Gopala Vrindavana Murandara.
Yasoda Dulala Govinda Gopala Vrindavana Purandara. Vigorajana Radhika Ramana Bhuvana Sundara Bala. Gopi Priya Jana Radhika Ramana Bhuvana Sundara Bala. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Ravananda Kora Makana Taskara Gopijana Vaskahare.
Ravanantakara Makana Taskara Gopijana Vastrahari.
Navina Nirada Rupa Manohara Mohana Vamsi Vihari.
Navina Nirada Rupa Manohara Mohana Vamsi Vihari.
Dipavali Sesa Aloka Pravesa Nidachari Utajiva.
Vivavari Sesha Aloka Pravesha Nidrachari Uto Jiva.
Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna Hayagiva.
Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna Hayagriva.
Yashodanandana Kamsani Sudana Nikunjara Savirasa.
Yashodanandana Kamsani Sudana Nikunjara Savilasi.
Kadama Kalana Rasa Parayana Vrindavipina Nivasi.
Kadamba Kanana Rasa Parayana Vrindavipina Nivasi.
Vihavari Sesa Aloka Pravesa Nidachari Utajiva. Bolo
Vibavari Sesha Aloka Pravesha Nidrakshari Uto Jiva.
Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna Hayagiva.
Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna Hayagriva.
Ananda Vardhana Prema Niketana Pulasara Jojakakama.
Ananda Vardhana Prema Niketana Kulasarira Jojakakama.
Gopagana Gana Chitta Vidodana Samasta Gunagana Dama.
Gopangana Gana Chitta Vinodana Samasta Gunagana Dhama.
Vibhavari Sesa Aloka Pravesa Nijachari Utajiva.
Vibavari Sesha Aloka Pravesha Nidrakshari Uto Jiva.
Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna Hayagiva.
Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna Hayagriva.
Yamuna Jivana Keli Parayana Manasa Chandra Chakora.
Yamuna Divana Keli Parayana Manasa Chandra Chekora.
Namasudara Sagava Krishna Jasa Rakavachana Manamora.
Namasudara Sagavo કૃષ્ણ જસ રાખો વચન મન મોરા
Vibhavari sesa loka pravesa nijachari yuta jiva
વિભાવરી શેષ આલોક પ્રવેશ નિદ્રાચરી ઉઠ જીવા
Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna Haya Viva
બોલો હરિ હરિ મુકુંદ મુરારી રામ કૃષ્ણ હયગ્રીવા
Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna Haya Viva
બોલો હરિ હરિ મુકુંદ મુરારી રામ કૃષ્ણ હયગ્રીવા
Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna Haya Viva
બોલો હરિ હરિ મુકુંદ મુરારી રામ કૃષ્ણ હયગ્રીવા
Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna Haya Viva
બોલો હરિ હરિ મુકુંદ મુરારી રામ કૃષ્ણ હયગ્રીવા
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Hare Hare
હરે કૃષ્ણ 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 હરે 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 રામ 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 હરે હરે
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
હરે કૃષ્ણ 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 હરે 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 રામ 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 હરે હરે
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare
હરે કૃષ્ણ 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 હરે 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 રામ 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 હરે હરે
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
હરે કૃષ્ણ 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 હરે 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 રામ 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 હરે હરે
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
હરે કૃષ્ણ 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 હરે 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 રામ 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 હરે હરે
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
હરે કૃષ્ણ 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 હરે 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 રામ 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 હરે હરે
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
હરે કૃષ્ણ 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 હરે 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 રામ 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 હરે હરે
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
હરે કૃષ્ણ 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 હરે 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 રામ 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 હરે હરે
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
હરે કૃષ્ણ 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 હરે 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 રામ રામ રામ
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
હરે કૃષ્ણ 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 હરે 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 રામ 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 હરે હરે
Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
હરે કૃષ્ણ Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Nitya Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Gaur Hari Bol Nitya Gaur Hari Bol
Nitya Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitya Gaur Hari Bol.
Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki
Jai.
jai. Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol.
Correct. Wait, what is it? Hey, you don't know how to play that. You give it to her. You take the small one. You give it to her. Yeah. That's too immediately. If you don't play it in the bit, it will break everything. Yeah, you play it. You play double beats, right? 1, 2. When I say 1, 2, you make it.
It's clicking. Okay, so here.
You start with single, and when I say
Wait a
double,
minute.
you play double. Okay? No, that's fine. Everything.
Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna
Madhava ki
ki
jai.
jai.
Or if you are comfortable, you can play this one. Like this. Either one is fine.
Pralaya prayodichale Jitavan Nasivedam Vichavahicha Charitam Ahakedam Keshavajrita Mina Sarira Jaya Jagadesha Hare Pralaya prayodijale Ritavana Vihitra charitam akedam Keshavadrita mina sarira Jaya Jagadesha Hare Keshavajrita mina sarira Jai Jagadesha Hare Bolo Bolo
Keshavadrita Mina Sarira Jaya Jagadisha Hare
Pralaya Prayodijale Ritavasivedam Vichacharitam Akedam Kesavadrita Mina Sarira Jaya Jagadesha Hare Keshavadrita Mina Sarira Jaya Jagadesha Hare Shitiriha Vipulatare Tistati Tava Priste Dharani Dharana Kina Chakra Ariste Keshavajrita Kurma Sarira Jaya Jagadesha Hare Pralaya
Prayodhijale Kritavana Vitavahitra charitam akedam Keshavadri
Sarira Jaya Jagadesha Hare Keshavadrita Mina Sarita Jaya Jagadesha Hare Vasatita Sannasikare Dharanita Valagna Sasini Kalanka Kaliva Nimagna Kesavajita Sukara Rupa Jaya Jagadesha Hare
Pralaya Prayodhijale Jitavana Sivedam Vitavahitra Charitam Akheram Keshavadrita Mina Sarira Jaya Jagadesha Hare Bolo Keshavadrita Mina Sarira Jaya Jagadesha Hare Tavakara Kamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Singam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringham Kesavajita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadesha Hare Pralaya Prayodhijale Dritavana Sivedam Vitravahitra Charitam Akedam Keshavadrita Mina Sharira Jaya Jagadesha Hare Bolo Keshavadrita Mina Sharira Jaya Jagadesha Hare Shalayasi Vikramane Bali Madbhuta Vamana Padanaka Nira Janita Janapavana Keshavadrita Vamana Rupa Jaya Jagadesha Hare Pralaya Prayodhijale Dritavana Sivedam Vitavahitra Charitam Akedam Keshavadrita Mina Sarira Jaya Jagadesha Hare Bolo Keshavadrita Mina Sarira Jaya Jagadesha Hare Shatiya Vyudiramaye Jagad Apagata Papam Snapayasi Payasi Samita Bhavatapam Keshavajita Brigupati Rupa Jaya Jagadesha Hare Pralaya Prayodhijale Dritavana Sivedam Vihitavahitra Charitam Akedam Keshavadrita Mina Sharira Jaya Jagadesha Hare Bolo Keshavadrita Mina Sharira Jaya Jagadesha Hare
Vitarasi Dikshurane Dikapati Kamayam Dasamukha Moli Balim Ramaniyam Keshavadvita Rama Sarira Jaya Jagadesha Hare
Pralaya Mayodi Jale Dhritavana Vedam Vihita Vahitra Charitam Akedam Keshavadrita Meena Sharira Jaya Jagadisha Hare Keshavadrita Meena Sharira Jaya Jagadisha Hare
Vahasiva Pushi Vasade Vasanam Jaladabam Halahati Biti Milita Yamunabam Keshavadrita Haladara Rupa Jaya Jagadesha Hare
Praraya Payodhi Jale Dhritavana Vedam Vihita Vahitra Charitam Akedam Keshavadrita Meena Sharira Jaya Jagadisha Hare Keshavadrita Meena Sharira Jaya Jagadisha Hare
Molecha Nibaha Nidane Kalayasi Karavalam Jumaketum Ivakim Apikaralam Keshavadrita Kalki Sarira Jaya Jagadesha Hare
Pralaya Payodhi Jale Dhritavana Vedam Vihita Vahitra Charitam Akedam Keshavadrita Meena Sharira Jaya Jagadisha Hare Keshavadrita Meena Sharira Jaya Jagadisha Hare
Shri Jaya Deva Kaveri Idam Uditam Udaram Shinu Sukhadam Subhadam Bhavasaram Keshavadrita Disabidina Dasabida Rupa Jaya Jagadesha Hare
Pralaya Payodhi Jale Dhritavana Vedam Vihita Vahitra Charitam Akedam Keshavadrita Meena Sharira Jaya Jagadisha Hare Keshavadrita Meena Sharira Jaya Jagadisha Hare
Jaya Jagadesha Hare
Jaya Jagadisha Hare
Guru Jaya Jagadesha Hare
Jaya Jagadisha Hare
Jaya Jagadesha Hare
Jaya Jagadisha Hare
Vedan udarate jaganti Vihate bhugolam udbhabi braste Daityam darasyate balim chalayate chatra shayam kurvate Polastyam jayate halam kalayate karunyam atanvate Michan murchayate dasakrite krite Krishnaya tubhyam namaha Kesavadita Mina Sarira Jaya Jagadeshare Bolo
Keshavadrita Meena Sharira Jaya Jagadisha Hare
Jaya Jagadeshare
Jaya Jagadisha Hare.
Bolo Jaya Jagadesha Hare
Jaya Jagadisha Hare.
Bolo Jaya Jagadesha Hare
Jaya Jagadisha Hare.
Jai Hari Bol. Gita Govinda ki jai.
Jai. Maharaj, is number 12 Falashruti or because there is no translation for 12.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Falashruti. Yeah.
This is what you get if you sing
You
this,
sing
right?
this,
That's
yeah,
kind of what you
yeah.
see. Most of the mantras they have that.
Say
Right.
kalayate karunyam atanvate malachan murchayate tasakriti krite krishnaya tubhyam namaha.
Correct. Yeah.
So who's kalayachati? Who was that? What did you say?
So
Did you
Maharaj,
say it was-
usually every mantra,
Yeah.
they will at the end they will say what will happen if you
Oh,
pray this mantra.
don't say this mantra.
No, if you say this mantra, these are the benefits that you'll get.
Falashruti.
The falashruti is what is the fruit that you are going to get
Oh, I
if you
see.
recite
Phal,
this.
okay.
The phal, yeah.
Falashruti.
So that is what it's mlecha. So even a low class person will also get elevated by singing. This is what it's.
We better sing this every week then.
Yes. Give it to Maharaj. I think this is. Give it to Maharaj. Okay, put it here.
I'm going to chant some mantras, some bhajans that we never chant.
Yeah, this is also after a long time. Maharaj.
It goes in here.
This is a white one also.
O Vaishnava Goswami, please be merciful to me now. There is no one except you who can purify the fallen souls. Where does anyone find such a merciful personality by whose mere audience all sins go far away? After bathing in the waters of the sacred Ganges many times, one becomes purified. But just by the sight of you, O Vaishnava Goswami, the fallen souls are purified. This is your great power. The holy name delivers one who has committed an offense to Lord Hari. But if one commits an offense to you, there is no means of deliverance. Your heart is always the resting place of Lord Govinda. O Lord, and Lord Govinda says, the Vaishnavas are in my heart. I desire the dust of your holy feet in every birth I may take. Please consider Narottama yours and be kind upon him. Ebaro Koruna Koro Vaishnava Gosai Patita pavana hatoma bina kehonai. Ek baro karuna koro Vaishnava gosai. Patita pavana toma bina kehonai. Jaharatni kate jele pape dure jai. Hemona doyala prabhu ke bakudatai. Jaharatni kate jele pape dure jai. Hemona doyala prabhu ke bakudatai. Gangara parasa hole prasate pavan. Dasani pavitra koro eto maragan.
Gangara parase boile paschate pavan. Darshane pavitra koro eto margun.
Haristane aparade tare harinam. Tomastane aparade nahi paricham.
Haristane aparade tare harinam. Tomastane parade nahi paritram.
Tomara hridaye sada Govinda Vishram. Govinda Ohe Mora Virchnava Param.
Tomara hridaye sada Govinda Vishram. Govinda kohe namora Vaishnava Param.
Pratijanme kori asa karan ravdule. Narottama koro hodoya apnara boli.
Pratijan में कोरी आशा चरणे रधूरी. नारोत्तम में कोरो दया अपनार बोली.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare
Hey
Hare.
bola Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Bola Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. Oh, okay. Yes, please. What time is it? Oh, it's very late. Okay, we'll call it quits. I want everybody to get up for Mangal Arti. Haribo.